Penguin Random House Audio presents The Peculiar Gift of July, a novel by Ashley Ream. Read for you by Cassandra Campbell. To Austin and Abigail, more than there are stars in the sky. Chapter 1. There was no end to the oddments that washed up on Ebey's end. So far that winter, the official list, which was kept pinned to the wall of the local tavern, included half a wooden rowboat sawn neatly down the middle and a Maytag wringer washing machine. Some teenagers claimed to have found a styrofoam cooler full of condoms, but this was unverified as the condoms were not in the cooler by the time it made it to the tavern. As a result, the school nurse had made an announcement over the loudspeaker concerning the dangers of relying on prophylactic flotsam. This would have been notable in most places, but Ebey's End was and had always been different. A green speck of an island so far north and west of the Northwest, folks were in danger of having to learn the metric system and the Canadian national anthem. It wasn't near anything or on the way to anything, and those who came and stayed had their reasons. 2 blocks inland, Anita was standing at the checkout, ringing up one of her regular customers and wondering what had become of his life. He picked up each item from his basket and set it individually in front of her. 3 frozen burritos, all chicken, 1 box of cornflakes, 1 quart of 2% milk, coffee, ground, an apple. She held it up. 1? Mr. Daly nodded, his hands in the pockets of his gray suit. He was the only man on the island who owned more than one, and the only man who wore it outside of a coffin. Well, you wouldn't want to overdo it, Anita said, and put the apple in the paper sack. I've thrown out the last 3, he admitted. I keep forgetting about them. Anita, who took groceries very seriously, stopped what she was doing. Do you keep them in the fridge or on the counter? I've tried both. He thought for a moment. The last one rolled behind the toaster. By the time I found it, it had grown a kind of fur. Fur? White fur, like a mouse, Mr. Daly said, rocking back on the heels of his dress shoes, the backs of which had worn down from the habit. It was sort of sweet, really. He smiled at her, but it was not cheering. Preston Daly had gray eyes and gray hair to go along with his gray suit. He was a head taller than anyone Anita had ever met, with limbs so long he gave the impression of constantly needing to fold and unfold himself to fit anywhere. She knew he lived alone, and she knew he did not have visitors, at least not the sort who stayed for food. This had been true for a long time, but the situation seemed to be getting worse. Anita had spent all 44 years of her life in the store. It belonged to Mac, her father, who'd bought it from a couple whose only son had died in the Korean War. A picture of him in uniform had hung next to the front door over the stack of handbaskets for decades, and her father, out of respect, had left it until first the man and then the woman died, and then the picture had quietly come down and been thrown in the trash. The building, which her father also owned, was 120 years old, and it always housed some version of the store. Coffee, sugar, and flour had been for sale here since the first white settlers had sailed across the Salish Sea from Seattle, pulled west into the far reaches of the San Juan Islands by the promise of virgin timber. With a breathtaking disregard for the native people, the logger barons built a bunkhouse, and then a saloon, and then Anita's store. Not much had changed. Nowadays, the gray light outside filtered through the front windows, partially blocked by hand-colored signs advertising a special on chicken thighs, $1.29 a pound, and potato chips, 2 for $5, select varieties only. The wood floor was untouched, darkened from a century of wet boots, with a slope that went from front to back. Gaps had opened between the boards wide enough to jam in a nickel, which children sometimes did. The shelves, too, were wood, lighter in color and too close together, so one person reaching for oatmeal might step back and bump into another choosing jam. The space was 4 times deeper than it was wide and didn't lend itself to the long, regular aisles found in modern stores. By necessity, the island grocery was arranged more like a bookstore with sections and nooks, which made even the half-sized rolling carts seem bulky. Overhead, metal fixtures like overturned washtubs shone down pools of yellow light. These were irregularly spaced so that the cereal section was bright as noon, while both the wine and the international foods lived in a permanent dusk. Anita's regular customers often pulled out cell phones, which worked only sporadically on the island, to use as flashlights over the labels. Refrigeration had been installed, but not air conditioning. She did not carry 15 kinds of flavored mayonnaise or whole pomegranates because people did not really want to buy those things. Not in Ebey's End, not at the island grocery. And if Anita knew anything, it was what her customers wanted. She had started sweeping the floors after school when she was 6. Her father paid her in quarters, which she used to buy candy from the bulk bins at half off, her unofficial employee discount. She'd moved on to stocking shelves and then working the cash register once she could see over the top of it. That was when she learned the secret of the grocery business, the truth of its bloody beating heart. People shopped how they lived. They ate how they thought. They used food to show or withhold love from themselves and from others. She could see who was hosting holiday dinners and who was alone, who had been told to watch their cholesterol and who had fallen off the wagon. She knew when there were house guests and who was on vacation. She could tell when someone in the house was sick or pregnant, when their New Year's resolutions began and when they ended. She could tell by the food in their carts when her customers were depressed, and she could guess why. She knew when money was tight and when it wasn't. She could predict birthdays, engagements, and, on at least 2 occasions, divorces. Anita could read people's shopping carts as clearly as if they had handed her their diary. Having that kind of information was a responsibility she took seriously. She kept her customers' secrets, and she never interfered. People came to her for margarine and canned corn, not a lecture. Still, Anita was worried about Preston Daly. Or, more precisely, she worried about his heart. He seemed to have left it out on the counter, forgetting about it until it grew fur, white like a mouse. Sweet, really, but gone off just the same. She sighed and gave him the total. He paid in cash and left the change, more than $10 in the cup for stray pennies. He always did. For whoever might need it. He'd told her once, and she'd been careful to use it that way since. Preston was president of the town's bank, which had a name but didn't need it. His father had been the bank president before him, and his grandfather before him, and his great-grandfather before him, all the way back to whoever had first cleared the trees from the spot where it stood. He was good at his work, but he did not enjoy it. Anita didn't think he enjoyed very much, although not for a lack of wanting. He did, after all, keep buying the apples. Hope in fruit form. "Mr. Daly," she called as he was walking out the door. He stopped. "Maybe eat the apple now," she said. He smiled, and again it did not travel up his face, but he retrieved the apple from the bag and bit into it. She could hear the crunch and snap of the breaking pink and yellow skin.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?